Capricorn Tarot, and in this video we're going to be talking about shadow work. Okay, what is shadow work? And we're also going to be talking in this video about what is the shadow self. We're going to be talking about how the shadow self forms. We're going to talk about, do we all have a shadow? We're also going to talk about how to do shadow work. Okay, guys, and much more. This video might be a little long, so I'm trying to move it along quickly, guys. We're going to get right into this. Shadow work is a very interesting topic to me, and I feel it is the reason why, especially when you're going through your spiritual awakening, it is very important to do this type of work, shadow work. Okay, guys, it is part of your progression, your ascension, your spiritual awakening process. Okay, it helps you to get rid of that you've been holding on to. It's very deep, and I feel like I wanted to share this topic with you guys. Okay, it's a very interesting topic, and this is, shadow work can be very beneficial, okay, in to do this type of work in your everyday life. Okay, it helps you understand why things are happening in your life, why you're in the space you're in at this time. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump right in because I don't want this video to be too long. Okay, guys, so let's talk a little bit about shadow work, what it could be. So article states, when you consider the words like shame or fear, right, guys, what do they bring up for you? Right, these two words. Is it some aspect of yourself you'd rather not think about? Well, congratulations, because you may just have found your shadow. Okay, guys, within it lies some of the hardest but most worthwhile inner work we can do as people. Okay, so shadow work is just facing, guys, the things that you've been pushing down, not wanting to deal with, things that you swept under the rug, things that you ignore, things you don't want to deal with. Okay, shadow work is working on these fears, these triggers, these things that shame you, that you just don't want to deal with. Okay, so in this video we will deep dive into what shadow work is all about, how to get started, and why it's so important. Okay, guys, so let's start with, what is the shadow self? Okay, what is the shadow self? Well, the shadow, okay, so we're going to talk about this is what the shadow self is. Article states, the idea of the shadow self was popularized by famed psychiatrist Carl Jung. And guys, Carl Jung is an amazing writer, especially in the metaphysical spiritual world. Carl Jung is like, he's the best. If you guys haven't picked up any of his writings, I recommend it. Okay, so let's go. Psychiatrist Carl Jung, okay, and according to neuroscientist Tara Stewart, PhD, and the author of The Source. Okay, guys, if you want to pick up that book, The Source, check it out. It's by scientist Tara Stewart, PhD. Okay, so according to Carl Jung and scientist Tara Stewart, okay, it's compromised of the parts of yourself that you reject. Okay, the shadow self. So your shadow self is, like I explained previously, it's everything you don't want to deal with about yourself. Shame, fear, everything that's negative that you don't want to deal with. That is your shadow self, okay? It says here, they're in your personality, okay? As per this scientist, okay? Stewart explains, but you're blind to them because you don't want to see them, which is exactly what I said, guys, okay? Excuse me. So your shadow self is basically everything that's negative about yourself that you don't like, you don't want to deal with, you are forced to deal with, okay? Let's go, guys. So let's go to how the shadow self forms, okay? So we're going to talk about how the shadow self forms. Per the article, the reason you reject these aspects of your personality, okay, goes back to your childhood, okay? And this reminds me, this part that I'm about to get into reminded me a lot of my trauma bond video, guys. So if you haven't checked out that video on trauma bonds, please check it out, because I feel it coincides with this that I'm about to explain here, because it's word for word almost what I was explaining in that video. Okay, so when you're young, right? When we're young, we depend on our parents or main caregivers for survival. As a result, we become very attached to them and their way of doing things, right, guys? So say a caretaker scolds you for being outspoken, right? There's a chance that you won't feel safe speaking your mind from that point on, even as an adult. So everything that happens stems back to your childhood, guys, okay? And that's the example that's given here. So the article states, because what it means to you is the person I need to love me to survive won't love me if I do this thing. Okay, you see how that works, guys? That message becomes internalized, buried within your subconscious, and therefore become a trigger for you for seemingly no reason. So you understand, guys? So if this type of behavior, it's almost like whatever it is that holds you back stemming from your childhood becomes a trigger and also becomes a part of your shadow self. Okay, this was a great example here. So in this example, if one of your shadows is around speaking your truth, it might bother you to see other people doing so. So again, if this is a great example. So, and it just explained itself perfectly. But again, just to reiterate, if you were brought up not like silenced, right, where you can't express yourself, you can't be honest, you can't speak your truth, growing up even into your adulthood, you might come across a person who's very outspoken, very, like go-getter, like, and they're very vocal and can express themselves with no problem. That person could trigger you because of what you've experienced since childhood, which is like basically you had a gag order put on you. You couldn't express yourself. You couldn't, so this is a perfect way of triggers, right? This is a perfect trigger right here. So let's see. So every time someone is outspoken around you, it may bring up unexplainable feelings of anger and resentment, since you have been programmed to believe that speaking up is not a safe thing for you to do. You see, guys, the article just reiterated what I said. So let's talk about, do we all have a shadow? Me personally, before I get into the article, absolutely. We all have a shadow, okay? Myself included, we all do. Okay, so the article states, short answer, yes. The concept of the shadow is generally a widely accepted perspective in the analytical and psychology, okay? But it's by no means the only perspective of the human psyche, okay? Shadow work can also fall under the umbrella of self-reflection, self-examination, etc., okay? So let's talk about how to do shadow work. This is interesting, guys. So the article states, so how do you actually do shadow work? It's typically done by questioning and exploration. This entails asking objective questions that elicit critical thinking and re-examination of old stories and beliefs we hold about ourselves. Okay, guys? The idea is that a more objective entity, such as a therapist, can help provide an interpretive mirror to the parts of ourselves we have a difficult time seeing and accepting. And while it is often work done with the help of a mental health professional, you can begin to explore your shadow solo too, by examining your thoughts, feelings, and assumptions. Okay, so basically, this passage here is saying that yes, you can have assistance with your shadow work via therapy, counseling. Those people can help you connect to your triggers, your shadows, right? But the article is also stating that you can do it yourself. Okay, so I'm going to go over some prompts to help you with your shadow work, should you want to, try this on your own. So the benefits of shadow work. We're going to talk about the benefits of shadow work. So number 1, tapping into your intuition. All right, guys. Article states, depending on what kinds of things you've tucked into your own shadow, there's a good chance shadow work can help you get in touch with your deeper knowing of your intuition, okay? Or your intuition, I'm sorry. If you were discouraged from using your intuition as a child, trusting your gut and inner compass, then you throw that into the shadow. Okay, so whatever your shadow is, whatever restrictions you had put upon you as a child, become your triggers and your shadow. Okay, so that's number one, tapping into your intuition. Number two, freeing yourself from the unconscious shadow. When we are operating at an unconscious level, our shadow effectively controls us. So while yes, facing our shadow is hard work, it's also incredibly freeing. It also sounds very negative, but it's really important to raise it from a unconsciousness to a consciousness, and then it doesn't rule you like it can when it remains suppressed. So basically, what this is, guys, and this is in your spiritual awakening. Okay, this is what I was saying. Shadow work is very important. Basically, all they're explaining here, number two, freeing yourself from the unconscious shadow, is typically you're going to purge. They call this purging. So you're going to take everything that's in your shadow, again, everything that you don't want to deal with, everything that triggers you, and they're asking you to purge it, bring it to the surface, bring it from the unconscious, which is where it lays dormant, where you swept it under the rug, you don't want to deal with it. They're asking you to bring it up, okay, bring it into the conscious, okay, and deal with it. That's the only way you're going to heal it, okay? So number three, empowering yourself and accepting your strengths, okay? Interestingly enough, can't get that out, for people with very low self-esteem, they'll often put good things about themselves into their shadow because they don't feel worthy of it. In instances like that, shadow work offers us the chance to reclaim the gifts that make us who we are, which we've been hiding away, okay? Number four, taking a step towards self-actualization, okay? Article states, if you're reading about shadow work, you're likely also interested in your own development and personal growth. Right, guys? Absolutely true. Shadow work is necessary for anyone who wants to become fulfilled and self-actualized, okay? To become the best version of yourself, you need to know what the bad bits are holding you back or are hidden. So you gotta, again, guys, you have to deal with that. You have to face it head on. If you want to bring it to the surface, acknowledge it, heal it, you have to face it, okay? So guys, let's talk about, when doing shadow work, what not to forget to do, okay? Number one, watch out for your triggers. I'm sorry, let me say this again. So when doing shadow work, don't forget to do this, not do it. I'm all over the place, guys. I came back from my walk and I'm just like trying to ground myself. So excuse my all over the place energy. So let me do this again. So when doing shadow work, don't forget to, number one, watch out for your triggers. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, okay? As you're doing this work, you'll become more and more aware of the little things that trigger you. So keep an eye out. So they're just asking you to be more sensitive to what it is that triggers you about situations or people, okay? Again, with the example that I went over not too long ago, right? If you are, like, say you work with somebody or you have a family member or friend that's very outspoken, they speak their mind, they're very open and honest and just very, like, outspoken, right? And you're not, and that triggers you about that person. Again, this number one is telling you, just be very, very sensitive to what triggers you in a person, because most likely that's your shadow and that's something that you have to deal with as part of your shadow. Whatever triggers you, it could be a person or it could be a situation, okay? Article states, number two, give yourself grace. So the article is saying shadow work is by no means easy, and offering compassion to those parts of ourselves that we have hidden away for so long is important. A lot of people put off this type of work because they feel afraid of what they find. There's so much shame associated with these factors, but often you're mature enough or personally developed enough. Um, Wait, let me backtrack. It says there's so much shame associated with these factors, but often if you're mature enough and personally developed enough, doing shadow work can be a huge relief because you realize it's not as bad as you think. And I agree with that point 110%. I understand that there's a fear of facing, what you could be facing doing this type of work, but it is so rewarding in the end when you do find out what it is. And it's really not that bad, guys. Okay, it's not as bad as you think. So if you're thinking of doing shadow work but you're afraid, don't be, guys. Just go with the flow and just dive in and just do it. You'll thank yourself for it. Okay. Number 3, call on others for help. Okay. Article states again, shadow work is never easy, especially if you've been through trauma. If considering the shadow sides of yourself brings about pain, suffering, or fear that you feel ill-equipped to handle, it's time to seek the help of a licensed professional. Okay? Now, this is very important right here because for the points that the article mentioned, okay, if it's that heavy for you, don't be ashamed to seek help from a therapist, a counselor, a mental health professional, okay? Article states a non-judgmental therapist can go a long way to help you with this, but we also need our own tools that help us reaffirm and accept ourselves as we face the more difficult feelings and parts of ourselves. Okay, guys? There are lots of ways to approach this depending on your preferences, including grounding exercises, affirmation, and therapeutic journaling as a few options. So the article also states that if you don't want to deal with going to a therapist, the article is stating that they have other, some options, and they offered up 3, which is grounding exercises, affirmations, and like therapeutic journaling, just writing, right? So now we're going to talk about exercises and prompts for getting started with shadow work, okay? So here they're offering up a few prompts that if you decide you want to do your own shadow work, I'm going to go through the prompts here, okay? And if you're thinking of doing it on your own and you try these prompts and they work for you, let me know. I would love to hear from you. Okay, so number 1, think about someone who triggers you. Article states, a good place to start with shadow work would be to think of someone who bothers you and reflect on what it is about that person that might also be within you. Okay? To figure this out, it is recommended that you ask yourself gentle questions such as the following. Okay, these are the questions you're going to ask yourself. Number 1, what is it about this person that I don't like? Number 2, do I find that I have some of those same traits sometimes? Number 3, what makes it so difficult to be around them? And number 4, what part of me does that person makes livid when I'm around them? And how do I feel about that part of myself? Okay, guys? Number 2, okay, examine your family tree. Okay, make a family tree of your 2 sets of grandparents, all of your aunts and uncles and your parents, because they're generations above you whose attributes, good and bad, might be in you. Okay, guys? This practice is all about getting honest enough to say, I love my family, but one of my uncles drinks too much. That's an example. The next step is to really look at all those qualities that exist within your family and ask if any of those things are in you. Okay? Number 3, confront your shadow. Another exercise involves meditating on and confronting your own shadow. Once you got a clear or at least somewhat clear view of the aspects of your shadow self, you can begin the work of confronting and releasing them with positive affirmations such as, number 1, I allow the darkest shadow that's buried within me to be released. And number 2, I release fear, I release doubt, I release shame, I release insecurity. Okay, guys? So these are 2 very positive affirmations that you can use once you've confronted your shadow self. Okay, these are the 2 affirmations you can use in addition to dealing with the shadow. Okay, guys, I'm gonna stop the video here. Again, I don't want these videos to be too long. The full article is linked in the description box below. Okay, guys, I only pull the parts of the article I feel will be interesting to you guys, but if you want a more concise version of this, you can definitely go to the article in the description box below. All right, guys, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you guys are currently dealing with doing your shadow work, again, I would love to hear from you, and I hope this video was helpful. All right, guys, and again, please show love to my playlist of non-tarot interesting topics where this video will be featured. There's a lot of videos there, over 20 videos now that you know, and I'm gonna keep posting interesting topics to that playlist because you know, these are topics I feel you guys could benefit from, and this is a huge one for those that are going through a spiritual awakening. Okay, guys, anyway, if you like what I did here, you already know what to do. Like, share, subscribe to this channel. Also hit that notification bell so you guys will be alerted when I post a video, when I premiere a video, or when I go live. And guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Do know that I love and appreciate you all. Have a great day and a great evening, and I will see you in my next video, guys. All right, guys, bye.